Hi, everybody. Jeff Benson here. For those of you who are familiar, thank you and welcome back. For those of you who do not know me, I am the owner of Mind Body Cheer and author of the best-selling book, Unblocked, The Walls Come Tumbling Down, which is a book on mental blocks. So I'm going to present to you all for the next hour a load of information. So make sure you have pencils and pieces of paper by you so that you can take copious amounts of notes, because my hope is at the end of this hour, your brain is full of practical and useful information to help you or your athletes be able to overcome their fears. So let's get started. We're going to cover the definition between mental blocks and performance anxiety. My hope is that at the end of the hour, you're going to better understand the differences and the similarities between the two, the science behind what's going on inside your mind and body. That's right. We're going to go and dive a little bit into what's happening underneath your skull and what's happening underneath your skin that's creating this feeling of fear. I want you to better understand how habits can either create or stop this cycle of fear that you're experiencing, whether it be performance anxiety or within a mental block. I'm going to provide you with the 3 rules that I have all my athletes and teams follow to help reroute the brain and to overcome fear. And finally, throughout this entire presentation, I'm going to be offering you tips and techniques or strategies on how to deal with both mental blocks and performance anxiety. So let's get to know your brain a little bit better. So I like to use this hand model to better explain what's happening inside your brain. We have right here our little brain. Go ahead, do it with me. Come on. Your little brain has one job, and that's to keep you safe. Another name, or the official name for your little brain, is your amygdala. So for high school science, your amygdala keeps you safe by using fight, flight, or freeze. We also have here our medium brain. Our medium brain is our prefrontal cortex. Our prefrontal cortex does a whole heck of a lot, but we're going to talk about it doing one thing in particular today, and that is to think of strategies to help you make good choices. The third part, so anybody who's feeling a little science averse as I'm bringing up these big terms, take a deep breath with me. I promise I'm going to present to you the science behind what's happening in a digestible way. All right, let's get back into our little hand model here. So our big brain is called our cortex. You would recognize your big brain if you've seen images of like white braids. It almost looks like that's your cortex. And in our topic today, your cortex is going to be one of the mechanisms used inside your brain when experiencing fear. And I'm going to explain that to you, but I'm going to ask you to use your patience and give me a second, because I want to explain to you about how your amygdala is the mechanism of that feeling of either butterflies in your belly or sweaty palms that you're experiencing before you take the performance floor that's kind of holding you back, or your amygdala is responsible for that freeze response where you feel like your feet are glued to the floor and you forgot how to do the skill you were once able to do with ease. So before we do that, let me pull up my slide on your amygdala. So as you can see from the slide here, the fight response from your amygdala is your amygdala sensing danger and sends a chemical of fight. So think of 2 animals who are attacking one another due to being in one another's territory. So 2 bears, they would attack each other because they have their 1-mile radius. You better get out of my way. Fight, which is a different chemical than when your amygdala sends a chemical cocktail of flight to run away from danger. So I have a little dog there just because I love dogs. But if you think of watching like The Wild Kingdom and you see a lion going after a gazelle in the desert, the gazelle, to stay alive, is running away from the lion. Totally different chemical than fight. The third, being from Wisconsin, my hope is you all relate to a deer when they see the car in the road. It's not that they're stunned by the headlights, it's actually the amygdala of the deer releases a chemical to freeze the deer. And why does it do that? Well, adaptively, deer stay alive because in general they blend into their surroundings. That's kind of like their protective mechanism. So when they freeze, they don't make any sound in hopes that the predator can't see them, can't hear them, and the predator goes away. In this case, the predator is the car. So sometimes, as we all know, the deer do not get out of the way and soon enough, but there are quite a few times where the deer recognizes that this instinctive response is not stopping the danger. And so the deer will shake off that chemical, different from fight, different from flight, and then flight takes off and the deer runs off the road into the forest. My hope is that you understand now at just kind of the basic level that your amygdala does this to keep you safe. I think it's also really important to note here that your amygdala is not the enemy. It is not the problem. Your amygdala has a philosophy of better safe than sorry. So when your amygdala feels in danger, it's going to try and keep you alive. How is that not kind? Sometimes, though, your amygdala is like an overprotective parent and does too much. But before we talk about how to stop the amygdala from responding and ways to help train your amygdala to stay calm, I want you all first to understand why your amygdala is there. Yes, it's there to keep you alive. I've said that multiple times. But if you think of hereditary, or if you think of ancestry, each of our individual genetics come from tribes from thousands, millions, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Those ancestors of ours stayed alive because of their active amygdala. They were not the first to try out the berries. They were not the first to walk out of the cave. They watched and they saw if something was dangerous. There are genetics or lineages, tribes that ended because they did not pay attention to their amygdala response, or their amygdala was not as responsive. Those were the individuals who made really unhealthy, unsafe choices without thinking of the potential dangerous or drawbacks to things like the berries. They ingested them and they died. So it's important to understand that we living here in this day and age have active amygdalas because of our ancestry. So when your brain freezes you, when you're trying to flip backwards, I hope you can be a little bit more patient and understanding and recognize the problem is not that you're freezing. In fact, to flip backwards is insane, people. It is not normal. It's not like running. It's not this biologically beneficial thing. Sure, it's fun. But what you're doing is asking your brain to do something against nature. So it makes sense that your brain is freezing you. All right. I'm super excited to present to you the next piece, which is better understanding the two different pathways of fear that your amygdala responds to or from. So there are two pathways of fear that occur in your brain. The first pathway is an event occurs. So this would be one of your five senses experiences an event: sight, sound, taste, touch, etc. That event goes to your big brain, the braids, the cortex, and your cortex deems that situation unsafe. Typically, it's because of worry that something bad might happen, or you're anticipating a negative event, or maybe you ruminate or you just keep thinking about bad things happening. The cortex then sends, the big brain then sends the little brain, your amygdala, a message: hey, dude, you need to fight, flight, or freeze that thing because I don't feel safe. And so the amygdala releases a chemical. The second pathway of fear does not involve the cortex. So it's just the event to your amygdala, and you have this immediate response. I want to give you an example before you answer which one you think happens faster. The first example, event, cortex, amygdala. Imagine an athlete backstage. I hear the music pumping. I see the other teams practicing. I'm in my uniform that doesn't feel very comfortable. It feels confined. And we're trying to work our turn section of our dance routine. And I keep getting this feedback from my coach that I am late, and she is getting mad. And I hear her voice getting louder and louder and louder. I see my teammates watching me. My cortex is translating my coach's frustration, my teammates' eyes, as I'm doing something wrong. And I start worrying that I am going to go on the floor and make this same mistake, that I am worrying that I am going to let my team down. I'm anticipating us not getting first place like we had hoped and practiced for. That would be that first experience of fear. The second experience of fear, an example would be, let's make a timely example, watching a scary movie. How many of you, when you watch a scary movie, jump because you weren't ready for that thing, sound, sight to pop out? I am super jumpy when it comes to scary movies. Now, what's the difference between my first example and my second example? My hope is you recognize that there was thoughts before my experience in the first example. I thought about my coach, I thought about my teammates, I thought about the end result. Where the second one, the scary movie, I didn't think, oh, that person's really scary, they're jumping out, and I wasn't expecting them to jump out. Like that doesn't happen. I just respond. So let's go back to what I shared before, or the question I posed. Which route is faster? My hope is you recognize that the event straight to the amygdala bypasses the cortex, so it's faster. When we're experiencing performance anxiety, 99% of the time you're in route one. When you're experiencing a mental block, 95% of the time you're experiencing the second route of fear. So let's talk more detailed about the similarities and differences between mental blocks and performance anxiety. So a mental block, by definition, is having a skill to near perfection, having performed it in multiple places, many different times in front of hundreds of people collectively, and then all of a sudden you can't do the skill again. So I was able to do my standing tuck. I performed it. I did it at tryouts. I've done it in practice. I did it last year at competition. And now I absolutely cannot get myself to go backwards. And I don't know why. That would be an example of a mental block. An example of something that's not a mental block, but where a lot of athletes get tripped up. I had a back handspring, I was throwing a back handspring on the tumble track. And then I moved my back handspring on the tumble track to the spring floor at the All-Star gym where we're taking tumbling lessons. And now I'm ready to try and throw it on the hard floor here at high school practice. And I just can't do it. I have a mental block. You do not have a mental block. Do not turn off the video. You just have what we would call performance anxiety. So we will, I promise you, go through how to help you in those same situations, okay? Now let's talk a little bit more about performance anxiety by definition. So performance anxiety is literally fear of negative evaluation. It's the fear of what others might think of you or how they might react to you. Concerning yourself with what place you're going to get, whether or not you're going to get a deduction, what your teammates are going to think, how your coach is going to respond, is fear of negative evaluation. I'm worrying, my life feels in danger for what these people are going to think of me. If I make a mistake in front of the student body when we go out there and do our homecoming routine, as an example. Some of the words that I used before to help you distinguish performance anxiety is worry, rumination, anticipation. Just so that you have a better understanding of what each of these words are. Worry is acting out or picturing an event happening in a way that you don't like. Where rumination is similar, but it's a thought, thinking about something bad happening. I like to think of a Ferris wheel, how they just go around and around and around. That's kind of what happens with worry and rumination. I'm worrying about this event happening. I'm worried about dropping my stunt. I'm worried about dropping my stunt. I'm picturing my stunt falling. Or ruminating, I'm concerned that we're not going to get first place. We're not going to get first place. We're not going to get first place. And I'm ruminating on the fact that it's going to be because of a deduction that I caused the team. Anticipation is very similar. Anticipation is the thought about the future, similar to worry and ruminating. But a lot of you would recognize anticipation when performing skills. So I'm anticipating my turn, might be feedback you get. Or you're anticipating your tuck. You're not setting, you're going right into the flip before you go into the set. I'm anticipating that second piece. Now, why do I say mental blocks and performance anxiety are cousins? Because they are both following fear cycles in the brain. And because sometimes performance anxiety turns into a mental block, or sometimes a person who has a mental block experiences worry, rumination, and anticipation. So it continues to reinforce that life or death situation in your amygdala. Now let's talk a little bit about how habits are formed inside your brain. So habits are those things that occur without much thought. They feel automatic. So let's practice something right now that I think most of you may not recognize is an unconscious habit. When I count 5, 6, 7, 8, I want you to clap for me or fold your hands, whatever makes most sense to you and your experience in your sport. So 5, 6, 7, 8, or depending on which one you did. What thumb is closer to your chest? Right thumb or left? Did you know that there are people on your team right now who at home did that same thing, clapped or folded their hands with the opposite thumb closer to their chest? So maybe you're out there and you're like, oh, I did it with my left hand. Well, I did it with my right. Did you know there were some people did it the opposite way? Go ahead, really quick. Go ahead and try it their way. Clap or fold your hands the opposite way. How does that feel? It's pretty gross, right? Weird. Maybe even hard. I actually had a client that I worked with that I had to walk her through how to do it the other way because it was so different from anything she's experienced. That is an example of a habit. doing something over and over again without much thought, and it leading to an event occurring. Let me explain, as I showed you a little bit earlier when we talked about, I showed you that slide on habits. Inside your brain, there's the lightning bolts. There are these electrical circuits that occur that create everything that occurs within you on the outside as well through a thing called neural networks. If you are science averse, that means when you hear the word science, you're like, eee! Oh, was that flight, everybody? Sounds like you must have had some negative experiences with science. Look at how fear is so fun. I love it. It happens all the time. So this is an athlete looking this direction. You can see her eyes, eyebrow, nose, and ear. Inside of our brains, there are billions of these little things called neurons. These neurons work together to create emotions, to help you perform dance and tumbling skills. These neurons also fire to create your hair to grow, for your eyes to blink, for you to breathe. Yeah, pretty cool. There are billions of these in your brain, more neurons in your brain than stars in the sky. Just in your brain. More in your brain than stars in the sky. Not all of us together, just in your brain. I find this so fascinating. So why is this important? As I explained, when neurons fire together, things occur. So let's say the first time you ever tried to do a double turn, think of how much preparation, how much you thought, how much you were trying to do it correct in order to have good form. That would be like all of these neurons working together, firing together, and that created your double turn. I'm about to give you a number that is just an estimate, okay? This is not set in stone. Imagine that took 50,000 neurons, okay, to do that. That would be like clapping when I say one, or folding your hands with your other thumb in front. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. How many of you had to think about what you were doing? Maybe even out there you did it wrong. You like did it with your regular way, or maybe you did it this way and you're like, I missed, or you didn't fold your hands quite right. That would be like 50,000 neurons needing to work together, and sometimes they don't fire quite right, so you do it wrong. So eventually, that's what that route would look like. But we know that over time, the more you practice something, the more it creates this just comfortable habit. What a habit is a shortcut inside your brain. So rather than following that big crazy route, a shortcut develops, and you use, this is just an example of a number, 500 neurons to go from there to there, which create a clap. I don't even think about it. I just do it. All I'm thinking is clap on one. Got it. So a habit is the shortcut in the brain that's unconscious when something occurs. We have habits that occur all the time, every day. I'm not just talking about cheer. I'm talking about habits in terms of reactions. We have habits in terms of the way in which we respond to people. How many of you athletes out there, your mom calls your name and you're like, what? It's just a reaction. You hear your mom's voice and it's annoying. That's your habit. Make sense? How many of you have a habit when you write a paper to put your name in like the upper right-hand corner? You don't even think about it. You get a piece of paper and you're like, or you get a test and the first thing you do is write your name. That's a habit. It's a shortcut in your brain. What I want to do is help you understand how habits can either reinforce your mental block, performance anxiety, or it can actually stop it. To do that, how would you change your habit of clapping with the other thumb? Think about it for a second. How would you change the habit of the way you clap now to clapping the other way? How could you make it turn into that shortcut? My hope is that you would recognize, well, I'd probably practice a lot. I would think a little bit harder about maybe some words I could use, like a cue word, like left thumb, left, left, left. So I remember like left. I would recognize that it wouldn't be easy right away, that maybe it would take some time. And even though I don't like what it feels like, I'm still going to try it because it's important to change that habit. Question: do you think it would be easier or harder to change the habit if you heard in your brain every time you did it wrong, it's okay, try again? Or do you think it would be easier or harder if what you heard in your brain was, that was terrible, I can't believe you didn't do that right. How are you possibly doing that wrong? It's not that hard. No one else struggles with it. Or same type of voice, said in a different way, this is stupid. Why bother changing it? Just keep doing what you're normally doing and what you're used to. It's fine the way you do it. My hope is that you recognize the first voice. If that's what you hear, it would be easier to change your habit and a whole lot less frustrating. So to help you reinforce or better understand that, I want to introduce you to self-talk. Self-talk is literally the internal narrators of your brain, the different voices you hear. I like to think of these voices or distinguish between the three in these sections. We have our angel voice, which is that hopeful, kind, compassionate voice, the one that encourages us. It points out things that we've done well, our improvement, and things that we can improve on with maybe using of strategies. But it doesn't tell us that we are bad. It just tells us things or ways that we can maybe improve and that we are capable of doing that. And it's okay that we make mistakes. I think a lot of athletes struggle with the recognition of their angel voice because they haven't practiced it, so they don't have a habit of it. Your angel voice, because we all have one, even if you're out there being like, no, I'm just a negative person. No, we all have an angel voice. It's the voice you would use to console a friend if they made a mistake. The second narrator is your amygdala voice. This is the voice inside your head that's only concerned with your safety. So if I jump off this bridge, I could die. That would be the self-talk of your amygdala. And finally, your bully voice is that voice in your brain that is perfectionistic. It wants you to be perfect. It compares you to other people. When you don't do something well, it tries to motivate you by telling you how terrible you are. Which voice is most practiced in your brain when you take the dance floor or the cheer floor? Which one do you most recognize? The compassionate, kind voice or encouraging voice, the fear voice in terms of life or death, or the critical voice? That answer talks a lot about your habits. We just previously, when discussing habits, I asked you, how would you change your habit from clapping with your, let's say, right thumb to your left thumb? Would it be easier to change that habit using your angel voice or your bully voice? I think we all understand that it's easier to change a habit when we're using our angel voice. Let me explain how the devil voice is not just a voice that kind of hurts you or makes you feel bad about yourself. It is actually reinforcing a mental block. I know. Did you know that waves in an ocean come in 2 phases? The first wave, when it comes to mental blocks and performance anxiety, is literally just whatever that automatic amygdala response is: fight, flight, or freeze. Typically within mental blocks, it's a freeze response, but within a performance anxiety, usually it's the flight response. I just want to get it over with, or I want to avoid it altogether. I just don't want to do it. The problem is not that reaction. The problem is not that that action happens or occurs. The problem is your reaction to the response. Okay, maybe that sounds a little confusing. Let me say this in another way. When an athlete goes to try and do, let's say, a tumbling skill, and they the fact that they didn't go is not a problem. That was simply just their amygdala not feeling safe. Your amygdala, remember, has a better safe than sorry reaction or philosophy. Not going isn't a problem. How you responded right there to not going is the problem. So how many of you out there, when you don't go, even though you wanted to go, get really frustrated with yourself? Notice the bully voice comparing you to Aisha over there, who is able to do her standing tuck really easy, or feel or worry that your coach is going to be mad at you, or that you're letting down the team, or you're anticipating not throwing the next one. Do you see how I froze? So mental block. However, the worry and anticipation, that first route of fear, is now also reinforcing in my brain a negative habit. My hope is that if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do in my brain, there's so much work I've got to do, I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath with me right now. Take another deep breath. So we're going to go in for 4 counts, hold for 2, and out for 4. Just right there. How do you feel in just taking 2 slow, deep breaths? One of the most powerful mechanisms you have in your body is your breath. If you've done yoga, you know this concept, but I promise you, being able to control your breathing can actually control and slow down your mind. So when your mind starts racing, that habit of fear, worry, rumination, stopping and taking a couple deep breaths where all you're doing is focusing on your inhale, filling up your belly with air like a balloon, holding that tight balloon in your belly, and then letting that balloon deflate in your belly is an amazing way to calm down your nervous system, which is essentially that cortex amygdala response, your nervous system, to get calm, to feel grounded again. I promise you that there are going to be tips and tools and strategies thrown or sprinkled throughout this. Deep breathing is one of the most powerful ways to stop both pathways of fear. Most people just try and do the first pathway interventions. The first pathway interventions would be what I'm starting to allude to now. Oh, recognizing that your bully voice is talking, and so trying to change that voice to angel voice. I realize my tone sounds a little condescending. I think changing your bully voice to an angel voice and practicing a new habit is essential for both mental block and performance anxiety athletes. Both. But in mental blocks, just changing that habit is often not enough because the route is faster. Your amygdala is freezing before you have a conscious thought. Remember, event, amygdala, go. Jumping at a scary movie. That habit that's occurring in your brain is what's stopping you. So, watching a scary movie, someone jumps out, I freak out. Watching a scary movie, someone jumps out, I freak out. Like sparks in a plug. So outlet, plug, sparks. Outlet, plug, sparks. To reroute the mental block or to reroute that amygdala immediate response, try watching a scary movie and focus on deep breathing. I would put money on you jump less or you don't jump at all. That's why one of the reasons, and as a proof, that breathing is a great way to help reroute that habit in your brain of jumping at scary movies. I do this all the time when my husband is watching a scary movie. He loves them. I do not. But I recognize every time I watch a scary movie and I focus on my breathing, I jump less and it's less intolerable to watch the scary movie, meaning I enjoy it more. I'm not like, sometimes I like try and do a double whammy. I'm like, it's just a movie. It's okay. Yes. Oh, listen for the da 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 in the music, because that usually tells you that something scary is going to happen. So I'm anticipating, ooh, something scary is going to happen. Deep breath. So when someone jumps out, I don't respond. I recognize that there is a trickle-down effect. When I practice not responding with amygdala in real life, not life or death situations, I'm better able to control myself in other places. So what am I trying to say? Another strategy is changing your habits or your amygdala reaction throughout the day to not follow what you're used to. So when your little brother or your little sister is annoying and you get out of my room, you just let your amygdala win out. Did you need to scream and yell like that? Were there other strategies you could have used? Well, yeah, I told her to get out of my room the first time. You're responding as if that person in your room is life or death. Is it? No, but it's annoying. Can you keep your lid on? Use your prefrontal cortex as a strategy. I need you to leave my room. Please leave my room. Okay, maybe an additional or a more advanced strategy is thinking, what are they trying to get from me? Ooh, they want my attention. So when I'm like telling them, leave my room, they're getting what they want. So I'm going to not give them what they want. Just going to put on my headphones and like keep doing whatever I was doing. What are they going to do? Tap, 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 tap. Ooh, what you're doing is working because they're trying to make it worse. They're trying to get louder to get what they want. And if you are able to like grit your teeth and just keep your lid on, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. It's almost over. It's almost over. Not only is your little brother or little sister going to walk out of your room sooner next time the moment you put your headphones on because they remember it doesn't work, you're also going to get more confidence and be able to use those same strategies in the gym. I'm not kidding. It will have a snowball or ripple effect. Being able to control your little brain from flipping its lid at home is going to help you from flipping your lid in the gym. I love it. So let's go back to the wave analogy, just so that you have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. The problem is not your fear. The problem is how you're responding to fear. Or think of fear as danger. The problem is not that you're frustrated that your brother or sister is annoying or that you see them as dangerous. The problem is that you react to them. And so it's just reinforcing that habit. Your brain automatically freezing you when you're trying to do a skill is not the problem. It's the way you react to that problem. Let's review what we know so far. So, my hope is at this point you understand the differences and similarities between a mental block and performance anxiety. My hope is that you better understand how anxiety works in your brain and your body, and that you can start applying that information in the gym to start changing the habits that are being formed or negatively reinforced. You know that your brain is malleable. You can change, and I don't think I did a great job. So I'm going to use my prefrontal cortex that right now says, hey, Jeff, I don't think you really even said that the brain is malleable. So I am not going to use my bully voice and tell myself I'm a failure. I'm going to literally use this as an opportunity to, let me reinforce it. I'm sure glad I made that slide so that I didn't forget the things I want you to know from here forward. So if on this route, this was my shortcut, but it's a negative habit, what I would do is stop acting in that way and form a new habit, a new route. I hope that makes sense. Your brain is so adaptive that it will form a new shortcut in your brain to create a new habit. How awesome. You are not, and if you've watched my mindset and mental toughness video, you've learned you are not bad at math. You are not just not flexible. You are not a bad side base. You can grow and change because your brain is malleable. It's adaptable. And finally, what you have learned is that how self-talk is going to influence the way fear works in your body. What I mean by that is your reaction or the voices that you hear in your head. If they're positive, you're less likely to experience that fear response again. If you're more negative, you're going to experience that fear likely again, kind of like that outlet and the plug. You're reinforcing a negative habit. And in case you didn't know, your amygdala stores emotional memories. So when you don't go, or I'm sorry, you try to throw a back handspring and don't go, and sparks fly out, you're just training your amygdala to not go again next time. Let's put that in terms of performance anxiety. Every time you're trying to perform a routine and you make a mistake and you get really upset by it, or coaches, you freak out on your team, you're creating emotional negative memories, which means you're just more likely to do that thing again. Avoiding it, second guessing yourself, worrying if it's going to happen again, which again, just reinforces that negative habit. Now what I want to do is give you some really concrete, practical advice in the gym to help you better understand if you're working too hard, not hard enough, or just right. What you have here is a Likert scale from 0 to 5. 0 is having no fear, 5 is having an overwhelming amount of fear. You are going to recognize a 0 in the gym because the athletes are going to be loose, talking, smiling. Without even warming up, they could throw this skill 5 out of 5 times. 100% of the time, there's going to be no hesitation. They're going to go. It's going to feel really easy. At a 1, the athlete is going to start feeling a little stressed, but they've got it. Their angel voice is going to be really loud, and there's just only going to be a little self-doubt, like, what if? And then it goes away. So the athlete's still smiling, they're decently relaxed, but maybe you're going to see before the skill, just a really quick deep breath to clear their mind and their body, and then they throw that skill. 9 out of 10 times, or 90% of the time, they're going to throw that skill. At a 2, you're going to start seeing some stress form within your athletes. Athletes in your brain, you're going to feel like 75% angel voice, maybe 25% bully voice, or a little bit of that amygdala voice of what if I don't go? I'm worried. I start anticipating. Maybe my arms bend. I don't feel safe. So the athlete at a 2 is not going to throw it every time. At a 2, you're going to be about 67 to 75% efficient. At a 3, athletes, you're going to start feeling a big battle in your brain between angel voice and devil voice or bully voice. Coaches, you're going to see like deer in headlights staring forward. They're going to be wiping their palms, looking behind them, stepping back. So at a 5, what's happening is the amygdala is starting to release some chemicals. The amygdala is awake and it's like, I don't know if I trust this girl. I don't know if I trust this guy. So you're only going to be throwing the skill about 50% of the time. 4s, just think of a pot of water getting hotter. You're now simmering. You're going to start stressing out. It's going to be a way more intense bully voice. You're not going to throw it very often. I know a lot of athletes function at a 4. That's where they're trying to throw their skills. And they're like almost forcing the fight response, like, go, 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 go. Can you just count for me? And they try and like distract themselves and they get really frantic. And that's a 4. And a 5 is when you flipped your lid. There's no way you're going to go. Your brain is full on fight, flight, or freeze mode. So to better help athletes, I have created these 3 rules to use in the gym. 1, never go above a 3. 2, you get 3 misses in a row before you must use my solution of changing the surface, skill, or spot. That means if an athlete throws their back handspring, doesn't throw it, and then look at number 3, takes more than 10 seconds to try and throw it again, they must stop. Why am I holding up 4 fingers? Because this one they threw. They still get 3 misses in a row to be able to try and throw it. But once you miss 3 times in a row, you must change the surface, skill, or spot. To better understand rule 3, you have 10 seconds to throw the skill, which means when you're attempting to throw that skill, if you are standing there trying to get yourself to go for more than 10 seconds, 2 things must happen. 1, I tell the athlete to walk away. And then they need to shake their body, throw a little fear party, like get it out, get it out, get it out, get it out. Woo! Go do a handstand, forward roll, backward roll, go get a drink of water. I'm just trying to be silly, but basically move. Be the deer stuck. You were the deer stuck in the middle of the highway. Now be the deer that goes away because you're wanting to shake that cortisol, that's the freeze chemical, out of your body to make you more likely to throw the skill again. The second piece of rule number 3 is that would count as 1 miss. See rule 2. So if an athlete's trying to do a round off back handspring and they go round off, 1 miss. All right, 0 to 5. How much fear do you have? I was at a 1, but I freeze. Remember the waves? I did freeze, but you know what? I'm all right. I'm okay. Ooh, I love that reaction. You're staying calm. I'm going to take a deep breath. But what's your fear? It's like a 1.5. All right. So it only went up a little bit. Worry is why the fear went up. They're worried, or anticipation. They're worried it's going to happen again. Just side note. All right. Come on. Let's try it again. Okay, come on. Look familiar? Ooh, 10 seconds. Shake it off. Shake it off. Woo! So that is now 2 misses in a row. And let's say they stand there for the 3rd one and they throw it. Nice. Here is my trick question. They go to throw it this fourth try, and they freeze. Do they have to change their surface, skill, and spot? Didn't go, froze for 10 seconds, went, didn't go. They would not have to change the surface, skill, or spot unless their fear was above a 3, because they didn't go, and went, so it starts over the 3 attempts to do the skill in a row. All right, let's talk about the strategies. I promise, performance anxiety, I'm going to bring those 3 rules into practice as well. So here are the strategies. Change the surface, change the skill you're throwing, or change the spot. And I have like the spotting ladder there on the side. I like to think of all things in terms of this ladder. Think of what the easiest way to do that thing is, and then slowly find baby steps up the ladder, in this terms of a spotting ladder, to make it less stressful. This is a route 2 intervention. It's also route 1, but it's a route 2 intervention, which there are very few. So make sure you make note of this. One of the tools or tricks about this ladder, especially with spotting, is that if at a bear hug spot is like when you're wrapping your arms around the athlete. Catch in the middle would be they start or initiate the skill on their own, and then I tap them. An emergency spot, just for definition, is when the athlete jumps over my arm and it's there just in case, but I'm not spotting them. One thing to understand or know about this spotting ladder is that when I'm working with athletes through it, I'm trying to see if their fear follows the little baby steps as well. So when you're at a bear hug spot, what's your fear? 0. 2-hand spot, what's your fear? 0.5. All right. 1-hand spot, what's your fear? 4. Okay. 1 to 4. That's an intense jump. I'm not judging the athlete, but that's an intense jump. So I would want to know, why do you feel safe here and not safe here? So that is that cortex pathway. I'm trying to get a map inside their head to better help them lower their fear. I want to know why. What thought do they have that's stopping that from happening? At a 2-hand spot, I don't know. I'm just used to it. Okay, and a 1-hand spot, yeah, I haven't done that in a really long time. All right, let's try a 1-hand spot and a 3-finger spot on your legs. Okay. They throw it. What was your fear? Like a 2. So this was a 1, this was a 2. I would like to know why this and this feel different. Do you even feel how many fingers I have on your leg right now? No. So I could not even tell you, and you wouldn't even know, but your fear level like increased to a 2, but you don't even know the difference. Let's play a game. You do 5, and I'm not going to tell you which one of these 2 spots I'm going to do. Okay, go. 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 Fear level. 1. Did you know 3 of those I used 3 fingers? Oh my gosh, no way. Let's try it again with 3 fingers spot on the leg, 1 hand on the back. Fear level, a 1. I hope everyone heard the nuance of that, because that is essential. Their fear level was a 2 and it dropped to a 1. That is a huge win. Remember, what is the percentage the athlete is going to go every single time at a 1? 90%. At a 2, 75%. So it's okay if they don't go. Try and use a strategy, prefrontal cortex, to help yourself be more likely to go the next time. All right. When I say change the surface, what am I saying? I am saying change where they are. Find an easier way to throw it. So instead of on the cheer floor, go to a spring floor. We don't have a spring floor. Great. Go to use a big squishy mat. Go off of a mat. We don't have that. Well, you're going to probably want to change the spotting ladder or change the skill. If you have a back walkover, how much fear do you have? 0. Now try a back handspring. 5. Okay. Do a back walkover, feet together at the top, snap down, 0 to 5. I don't know. 0? All right. Now I want you to do just jump to my arms. 0 to 5. 0. Jump to a handstand through my arms, but stop in a handstand. 1. Ah. So changing the skill is one way to help lower that amygdala response. Remember, when you pair these behavioral interventions of the ladder with those mental habit interventions, you are going to see the most amount of progress. Let's go back and use the rules when it comes to performance anxiety. Coaches, if a team has a fear of more than a 3 when trying a skill in practice, you are setting them up for disaster on the performance floor. Why? Because fear is only going to inflate when you take the performance floor. If it's a 3 at practice, it's going to at least be a 4 at competition. So our goal, or my number one strategy, is to lower the fear in practice. So if it was a 3 in our full out, how do we make it a 2? Is it behavioral interventions like watering down stunts, or is it mental interventions like teaching them positive self-talk, or is it physical interventions like deep breaths? Rule 2, if a team is not throwing a stunt 3 times, they've missed 3 times, use the ladder technique. Water down that stunt. So let's say you're doing switch up lib. They fall 3 times, do 3 straight up libs. You're going to see the problem in the switch up lib in the straight up lib. Guaranteed. So fix it in the easier skill. Fix that the athlete's not pushing off in the lib because it's easier. She doesn't have as much fear there. Once they can do that 3 times, now go back to the switch up lib. Let's say they fall again. So I went ladder step, ladder step. Sorry, ladder step, ladder step, ladder step, but they fall again. Find a ladder step between the 2. So maybe it would just be do a switch up to low lib. Maybe it's to do a drill on the ground where the athlete works bend 1, 2, hit their lib on 3, switch on 4 as a drill or progression. Do that 3 times and then perform it. Now, you have 10 seconds to throw a skill is not really a performance anxiety intervention, but hopefully with rule 1 and rule 2, you see how you can better prepare your athletes to overcome their performance anxiety. Let's talk about one final piece on how to help your athletes better overcome their fear in skills. A lot of athletes feel that they just don't have confidence. Confidence can come in 2 ways. There can be consistent confidence. Consistent confidence is when you feel like you can do something. Even after you fail, you still stay positive and know you can do it. So like you get 3rd at a competition, you're like, no worries, let's go back and practice harder. We can do this. We can totally beat them. Consistent confidence. There's also reactive confidence. For all of you who watched the mindset and mental toughness video, you understand reactive confidence is only feeling good after you do something good. Huge warning for performance anxiety. Reactive confidence is a double-edged sword. You feel confident, but only when you do well. So what's the opposite? When you don't do well, you're going to fail. True confidence comes from overcoming adversity, doing hard things, and starting to trust and know that you can overcome those hard things. So to reinforce performance anxiety in practice, oh, my team doesn't have much fear when we go full out in our dance routine in practice. They would say it's like a 1, but when they go and perform it, at state, it's like a 4. Why? You find out what their worries are because it's probably a cortex response. How many of them are anticipating, and you start working a new pathway. What you can do in practice is start trying to bring those fears into practice while then giving them tools to deal with it. So if they're getting set in practice and they're like, all right, it's just another full out, let's go. And they're just going, not a big problem. They look great. Try turning off the music. Try making them do jump rope and get tired before. Try having another team watch them. Tell them that you're recording them and posting it live on Instagram. Anything to start getting them to learn how to deal with that feeling of fear and those voices while reinforcing as a coach those new habits in their brain. That right there, if used correctly, will revolutionize your program if you've seen team culture and go from an average culture to champion-minded culture. Last slide, which is just going to reinforce the concept that I just expressed, which is the Goldilocks theory. Goldilocks had it right. The one bed is too soft, the other bed is too hard, and then she found the just right bed. That's what we're looking for. That's how we overcome performance anxiety. We warm up our skills at comfortable and easy, those zeros and ones. But we stay away from those overwhelming skills where we can't hit it more when we miss it 3 times in a row. Even if your team's like, we can do it, give us another shot. No, do not reinforce the habit of falling. Instead, reinforce the habit of challenging, something that's outside of your comfort zone. That's where you grow and change. When you're at a 2 or a 3 and you can keep your lid on, keep calm, and stop the amygdala from sending those chemical cocktails to your body, you are on your road or the road to recovering from your mental block or performance anxiety. All right, everybody, deep breath. That was a lot. If you have questions, please reach out, ask me, mindbodycheer@gmail.com. It is my absolute pleasure. And with gratitude and thanks, I appreciate everybody who came, watched to the end. Again, remember, I love and value questions. So please, if you have follow-up questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Until next time, everyone, be healthy, be safe, and be well.